Well, friends, once again, welcome to Foundation Church. My name is John. I'm the pastor here, and I am just honored and excited to get to worship with you. Now, look, if you haven't yet liked and shared this service online, what are you waiting for? Please do that, whether you're in person or online, because then more people will get to see and hear what you're getting to see and hear, including this awesome good news. So today, we are beginning this brand new series called Game Over. It's a 3-part series built around the idea of death, which sounds sad. So we're also building it around video games, because those are tons of fun. Now, here's the thing. I'm really excited for this series, but there are some people out there who are even more excited. So excited, in fact, that we're actually going to have to do a part 2 to this series in the fall. So be looking forward to that. It's going to be even more fun. But today, Game Over, we're going to be talking about today this idea of dying to ourselves. We're going to be talking about dying to get ahead, dying in order to get ahead. But I want to start off with something simple. I want to gauge my audience. And so I want to ask you this simple question. How many of you have ever played video games? Online or in-person people, show of hands. Online people, just comment yes. How many of you have ever played video games? All right, so for those of you online and can't see, just about every hand was up. There were a couple of people who were like, I refuse. I will not raise my hand. That's okay. I'm pretty confident that basically all of us at one time or another have played video games, right? Whether you played them a lot or you've played them once or twice, whether you really love them or perhaps you think they are not the best use of your time, we're going to hopefully redeem them a little bit today for you. Now, in-person people, you're going to get to answer this next question to the people around you. Online folks, I want to see your answer down below. And that question is, what was or is your favorite video game? Go ahead and take a minute and share with people around you what your favorite game was. Okay, that's all I can be quiet up front here, so I'm going to talk. I know it's terrible, right? So here's the thing. I asked this question online on my personal Facebook account. I said, hey, what kind of video games should I use for Foundation Church's video game series? And I was overwhelmed with A, the response, and B, the passion that people had. So people said things like, oh, you can't leave out Mario Brothers, right? Whether it's the first one, the second one, the third one, or like the 37th one. You got to have Mario. But then they started talking about games like Zelda, Oregon Trail. People talked about Grand Theft Auto, Among Us, GoldenEye. One person actually said it would be criminal if you don't talk about GoldenEye. I got bad news for that person. I don't think we're going to talk about GoldenEye in this first round. But somebody really smart said to me, John, you're going to have a lot of really upset and disappointed people because you're not possibly going to be able to cover all the video games. That's why we're going with a part 2, right? We'll have a part 2 in the fall. But today I want to start out talking about a game that I played in college, Super Mario Kart or Mario Kart for the N64. This was the original Mario Kart. Some of you are excited. That's because you're older like me. Others of you don't know what I'm talking about. It's because you're either much older or much younger. But this game was just the best. And it was a great game for college men to play because it included competition, but not in a way where we would harm each other most of the time. But what we learned was Mario Kart for the Nintendo 64 is like the world's most broken game. And what I mean by that is there's a race, it's a racing game. There's a race course, but the game is so broken that there are lots of ways to like cheat, to work the system, to jump off the course and end up further ahead on the course, and even places where if you intentionally jump off cliffs or like kill Mario, the game will put you back at the finish line ahead of everybody else. So I'm gonna show you a brief clip. Online people, it's not gonna be your whole screen. You're gonna get a different camera angle because if we did the whole screen, you would just mostly see transparent and weird. So you're gonna get a different shot, but everyone in-house, you're gonna see it's about a 35 or 40-second clip of a particular racetrack called Royal Raceway. This might be the one that is the most obvious and easiest to tell. With that setup, I'm gonna go ahead and have our tech people turn that on. All right, so if you didn't catch everything that was happening, little Yoshi in his little car jumped off one cliff, and the little cloud guy picked him up and moved him way ahead of the other player, and then he jumped off another cliff, and little cloud guy picked him up and put him at the finish line, and that was the end of his race. He finished what should have been like a 1.5-minute course in like 30 seconds. That is an example of dying to get ahead. And when we discovered that in college, there was great controversy over whether that was acceptable, jumping off of cliffs and ending up at the finish line, or if you had to actually race the course the way it was created. Today, we're going to be talking about that, and I'm going to suggest to you that sometimes the best thing you can do is die to yourself in order to get ahead in your life. So let's talk more about that. We're going to be looking at Romans chapter 6. I'm going to be reading verses 1-4 for you. We'll put them up on the screens, but you are welcome to follow along with the Bible that you have in front of you or you brought with you as well. Romans, by the way, is considered, it's written by the Apostle Paul, who wrote like a big chunk of the New Testament of your Bible. And Romans is considered to be his best work, his most complete work. And this part that we're talking about or we're reading today, it's talking about discipleship, following Jesus. So Romans 6, 1-4. What shall we say then? Shall we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. We are those who have died to sin. How can we live in it any longer? Or don't you know that all of us who were baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? We were therefore buried with him through baptism into death in order that, just as Christ was raised from the dead through the glory of the Father, we too may live a new life. This is God's word. It's given freely to each and every one of you. And I want to go back to that first part of verses 1 and 2. See, the apostle begins this by talking about what shall we say then? Shall we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. This was a big problem. Paul was teaching people that you're free from the law, that there isn't a book of rules and a checklist that you have to go through to follow Jesus. That may sound odd to you because if you're new to Christianity, you probably figure Christianity is just all rules. But Paul was going around telling people, guys, that's not what it's about. You're actually free from the rules. You're free from the law. Paul furthermore said, and by the way, when you misstep, when you mess up, when you sin, God's grace is so great that it'll actually increase and meet where you need it. It'll fill up where you've messed up. And so some people were starting to think, maybe for God's grace to be better seen, for God's glory to be made greater, we should sin more and do more bad stuff so the world can see how great God is. And Paul is saying to that, by no means. Now, I want to tell you that the translation there, by no means, is pretty soft. He might have said something a little more akin to heck no, except for like even stronger. Paul is very, very against that idea. Now, with that in mind, I want to ask this question. You can raise your hand in person, online. I actually want you to answer it. The question is, have you ever been in so much trouble that you just figured, I'm going to keep on going? Like in for a penny, in for a pound. How many of you have ever been in that much trouble you just continued to do whatever you were doing? Am I the only one? There's like 6 of us. Clearly, some of you are so much better than me. So for instance, just one instance of this in my life. In college, we were out, a group of us, and we went to Canada without telling any of our parents because they might say no, and it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. We were in Canada, and we ran out of gas, and we realized that none of the gas stations were open. And so one person said, we should call our parents because they're smart, and they probably know what to do. And another person said, yeah, and my parents actually have AAA, and maybe they can help us. But I suggested, guys, are you a bunch of quitters? Let's just spend the night in Canada in a parking lot, and we'll walk to the gas station tomorrow. And I advocated very strongly for that, and we did spend the night in a parking lot in Canada and just walk to the gas station the next day. Because I figured I'm already in trouble, like I might as well double down. And then I told my parents about years later. So I got out of trouble for that one. Whew. Well, that happens sometimes. But Paul is saying, guys, don't do that. That's not a good strategy. As a matter of fact, in verse 4, he continues on. In verse 4, he says, we therefore buried with Jesus through his baptism into death in order that, just as Christ was raised from the dead through the glory of the Father, we may too live a new life. Now, I want to break this into 2 parts. The first part is where Paul is talking about this idea that because we were baptized, or when we were baptized, we're connected with Jesus in such a way that we die with him in his death. Now, for Paul, this is really, really important. And he's not saying that you literally die. But what he is saying is that old, sinful you, the old you, the you that said, let's spend the night in a parking lot in Canada and not tell our parents, that you dies when Jesus died on the cross, if you're connected with him. Now, he doesn't stop there. You see, he goes on in the second part of that passage and says, because of that, Jesus was raised from the dead. And because of that, we too are raised. And all of a sudden now we live a new life. Paul says that the old us has died because of Jesus when we connect ourselves through baptism with him. Likewise, just like Jesus rose from the dead, there's opportunity for a new us to come to life, to exist anew. And this is the offer that he says that God gives to us freely. Now, it could be that this idea of dying to get ahead, it all sounds a little morbid to you. It could be that you're like, I don't know, John, like I don't like racing games and I don't like thinking about death. And so I'm not enjoying this message. Anybody in that camp? No, don't raise your hand. I'll feel insecure. Thank you. Thank you. We had one hand up. It was so quick. Thank you. Yeah, that's okay. Because the Apostle Paul, that same guy, said, not everyone likes to talk about dying and killing a part of yourself and dying to yourself. And so in a different book, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, he wrote of another way to think about this. See, in Ephesians chapter 4, I'm going to be reading parts of verses 22 and 24. Paul says, you were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self and to put on your new self. You see, all of a sudden now what Paul is talking about is not life and death. He's not even talking about baptism here. What he's talking about is changing your clothes. Right? He's saying that the old you, the you that sinned and messed up and said, let's just keep going, that you is like a dirty old pair of clothes. And the new you, when you connect with Jesus, is like putting on fresh new clothes. Now, I have to be honest, I'm of the opinion that like brand new clothes, they're the best, right? Like when I buy a new outfit, a new shirt or a new jacket or a new pair of pants, I feel so much cooler. Am I the only one who feels that way? Does anybody else feel like awesome when you get new clothes? Okay, a few of us, yeah. I always feel like, man, I am so awesome. As a matter of fact, I have particular clothes that I like to buy more often than others. Like there are some clothes that I'm like, every time I walk in the store, I'm like, oh, Crystal, I need to buy one of these. And my wife says, you have 37 of them. You don't need another one. For me, that's jackets. I love jackets. Like I would buy a new jacket every day and wear a new jacket every single day if I could. My wife doesn't let me. Online people, I really want to hear, what is it for you, that article of clothing that's just your favorite? You're the thing that you're like, every time I go into the store, I want to buy one of those. Maybe it's a hat or shoes. Maybe it's a purse. We're going to count purses as an article of clothing. But the point here is that so often those new things, they make us feel so much better. Now to bring this back to the video games, there's this other, even older video game called The Legend of Zelda. Now I'm talking like old, right? This is Nintendo Entertainment System, the gold cartridge. This is the good stuff. This is a game from my childhood that I loved to play. I think partly because in Zelda, you get to collect things like weapons and shields and potions and all kinds of nonsense. You know I was a nerd, right? So I loved this. But there was this cool thing where you could get certain rings that could make Zelda more powerful and make him look different. And so your little guy, he starts off green, and then he goes to blue if you get a blue ring, and eventually you could get a red ring, and he would turn red. Now, this didn't just make him look different, right? A lot of new games, they make characters look different, but they're the same darn character running around. They just look different, like different dance moves, right? Not a dancer. But these rings made Zelda stronger. Actually, it was Link, right? These rings made Link stronger. So the blue ring made it that much harder to hurt him. And the red ring, if you could get a hold of that, he was even tougher. It was even harder to hurt him, like he could hardly be hurt. Now, we're talking about this because that's true with Jesus as well. It turns out that if we die to our old selves, if we choose to put on that new self, if we do that, sin all of a sudden has less power over us. And that's really Paul's big argument in both of these passages. Paul is suggesting that if we put on Jesus, if we kill the old part of ourselves so that we can live that new life, that all of a sudden no longer does sin have control over us. We're actually dead to sin. So we are literally dying to get ahead. You get that? Literally dying to get ahead by connecting with Jesus. So today we just started this conversation about game over. And the reality is that sometimes death does not equal a game over, right? We were just talking about a way that we can experience death in our lives, death to our old selves, to the old us who did things not quite as great. And yet doing that helps us get ahead. Now, that's not to say that this is easy. That's without challenge or without struggle, without effort, commitment, and even sacrifice. There will be that. If you choose to embark upon this journey, if you choose to strive to follow Jesus more closely, there will be times where it will be difficult, where it will be challenging, where you will say, the old me would have popped him in the nose, or the old me would have run her down when she left the room. But the new me is choosing a different path. But I have to be honest. The sacrifice and the commitment, the hard work, and even, yes, the effort is absolutely worth it. Because in the end, it leads to victory. Victory in this life, and ultimately victory in the next. I'm going to invite you to join me in prayer. God, we long to find ways to be victorious. Whether it's a video game, a game with our life group, a game with our family, or the game we call life. We want to do this better. Help us to realize that sometimes parts of us have to be changed so that new parts of us can live more fully. Help us to know that sometimes we have to take off the old in order to put on the new. May we find victory in you this day, this week, and forevermore. In Jesus' name we pray.